Everyone, it's Sal Jade. Thank you so much for joining me live here in How to Be Psychic today for this free psychic seminar that some of you may know. I run these every second month for the How to Be Psychic group to just share with you my latest tips to help you improve your psychic development and your healing journeys as well as answer any questions that you've got or any challenges you've got in your own psychic development progress. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are here, if you could just take a couple of seconds to pop something in the comment box. So if you're not watching the replay and you're joining me live in the Facebook group, just pop in a couple of comments and who you are and where you're from, just so I know that you are hearing me and that I can see your comments. And for those of you who are in the replay, just let me know with say replay if you're watching this on YouTube. And for everyone, if you like suddenly see this and it's been months since I did this, this is August 2022, and you're like, oh, I'd love to get some more of these, then just make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel because that's where I pop these every month. So there'll be a new one every month. One month will be the How to Be Psychic, which is crystals and oracle cards and connecting with your spirit guides, and the alternative month will be my tarot one. So that's one way you can get access to these free seminars from me. So if you're here, just pop a comment in, let me know, and because if you don't, I'll think you can't hear me and I'll have to start all over again. So I might just get started and while I'm waiting for people, and I'm just going to talk about what we're going to share today. And we've got some really exciting topics today, things that I haven't had a chance to talk about before. So I always get excited by brand new questions. So the first question I'm going to be dealing with is I'm going to talk about hello Deanne, thank you, first cab off the rank from Pacific Northwest Washington State. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me, and thank you for coming. So I'm going to just talk about how you can, so somebody asked on the Q&A board, how can I remember more details? So how can I, if I'm doing a psychic reading, like whether it's channeling or connecting with higher guides or even mediumship or even just working with oracle cards, how can I remember more details? So I'm going to be answering that. I'm also going to be talking about the concept of how to do this course and how to get the most out of your practice when you are not part of a denomination that favours angels, I guess. So I get a lot of questions from people that are like, hey, I'm Hindu, this is making me feel uncomfortable, or I'm non-denominational. So I'm going to talk about some alternatives, and especially things like people ask me questions about using oracle cards versus remedies. So for some of my Indian students who love to use remedies, and that's how they grow, that's their culture as part of their readings, is they have remedies. So I'm going to talk a bit about remedies and also how to incorporate them with what I'm teaching you as well. So you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you're getting the best of both worlds. I'm also going to talk about my favourite decks that I like that are multi-denominational or non-denominational. And I'm going to share with you a really powerful meditation that we can do together, because right now, as some of you may not know, if you've been on Facebook at all in the last week, you will definitely know, we've gone through a Lionsgate period of the 8-8, the August the 8th, and that always can bring up quite a lot of intense stuff astrologically. It can bring up a lot of energy, and I would love to do some shadow work with you today, because our shadow stuff can often come up during these periods, and right now this has been a particularly heavy time for some shadow stuff coming through. So I'd like us to do just a little meditation together that you can use if you've been feeling a little bit vulnerable, or you've been feeling a little bit like some of your relationships are being challenged, and how you appear in those relationships, and maybe the roles you take on, because that's a big thing with shadow work, is how you enact with those that are around you and what they expect of you, and how you basically fall into old patterns and roles that maybe feel a little bit not destructive, that's too strong a word, but maybe feel a bit debilitating. So we're going to do some work on some clearing some shadow self, and just healing some shadow self as well. Hello, Marcy. Heck yeah, she says. Shadow aplenty, absolutely. My PC didn't update. I thought you were late, Francine says. No, I actually was 2 minutes late, but that's all, not much longer than that. And so I'm going to look at doing a group meditation for us to talk about shadow work and some things that you may have been feeling. And even if you're not feeling, you may feel you could use this at a later date if this comes up for you in the future. So just learning to love our shadow a bit more, and learning to love those parts of ourselves details that perhaps we reenact with people in our lives. And this can be from friendships from years ago, or it can be with our families or our partners, and just how to sort of heal those parts when the shadow stuff starts coming up. So I'm going to talk about that, which was very exciting. I'm also going to talk about the very popular question that's come up quite a bit this week, and that is, how much should I charge for readings? So I know there are a lot of people, so those of you who've been here for a long time know that I tried to keep my business group and this group separate. So my business group is the Psychic Healing Hub, and I try to keep that for people who are professionals already, or people who are in my intermediate courses or my Build Your Spiritual Business course, so those that are more business focused, and I try to keep this for our psychic and healing realms. But I did want to answer this question because it's coming up a lot for those of you who are like in that beginning stage and you're a bit curious and worried, how much should I charge for reading? So I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm also going to talk about how to interpret colour in your guided meditation. I got a fantastic question this week, and I've had this one a few times, about how to interpret different colours and what they mean when they come up in the meditation that's in my course or any kind of guided meditation. And so I'm going to get started with that. I'm very excited about that. And those of you who have done this with me before know if you've got questions, just if you could try to save them for the end, because I will basically answer a whole lot of questions at the end, and I can tend to go off track if I don't sort of stick to the actual prescribed topics. But do pop them in here and I will go back in and get to them as well. So before I begin, as always, big heartfelt thank you and all my love for those people this month or the last couple of months who have taken the time to review How to Be Psychic or any of my other courses. Thank you so much. I know it takes a very special amount of effort to find how to review it, but also how to put a few comments to say what you liked about the course. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much to Vance and Elizabeth Jetta and Qatar Thur, Donna Beard, LaDonna Merriman, Mia O and Deborah Matthias for your very kind comments this month on How to Be Psychic. And thank you so much. And to everyone who has taken the time to not just put the stars, because that is helpful, but just to write a few comments as well. That's really, really much appreciated. So before we get started, I'm just going to send out some love for everyone, for wherever you are, if you're watching this on the replay or if you're watching this live. As I said, it has been a real, what can we say? The last few years has been really topsy-turvy and quite intense, but this shadow period may be hitting some of you worse than others. So just sending out a whole lot of love to open you up to hopefully getting something that you need out of this seminar, and hopefully giving you either some healing or some more inspiration to improve your psychic readings, and also some reassurance, because that's one of the things that, when I create a course, I obviously can't answer every single obstacle or challenge that an individual might have along the way, which is why I love these seminars, because I get to do that. And so with that in mind, so I'd like to start with the first question is how to remember details better. So I had a question from someone who was like, I can go up there and I feel like I'm getting a lot of information when I'm connecting to my guides or my spirit or to spirit, and when I come out of it though, I feel like I've got not much there. So kind of that frustration we might experience with a dream, where when we're in the dream, there's a lot going on, but we wake up and we can't remember it. So my tips for that, the first thing is, I know this is a really simple, strange one, but I actually, when I'm having trouble recounting information, I do ask my guides to improve my memory. I actually just say to them, can you just improve my memory a bit? Like, I'm not retaining everything. Can you give it to me a bit slower and a bit more concrete and in symbols and images that I will understand and remember? So if you say that every time before you go up and do a kind of session, or even if you're just reading the cards and you're getting messages coming through, then that can really help with that retention. You're setting the intention and you're also telling your brain, hey, we really need to remember this. And also you'll relax too, because you won't be panicking that you're not remembering. It's like, hey, it's in the guide's hands. I'm doing their work. So they need to kind of get through the information so I can remember. The other thing, and I talk about this a lot in my courses, those of you who've been with me for a long time, is in the beginning, it's okay that you're not remembering a lot. Like when I first started myself and doing student psychic development classes and learning how to do this, I didn't remember lots and lots and lots of detail. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not, like, to put that pressure on yourself as if you've been reading for 20 years, or maybe you've seen someone on YouTube who's done a video and they've just downloaded this incredibly accurate and 20-minute sort of grand narrative story and you're like, oh my goodness, that's not what I get. Like, remember that your journey is your own unique journey, and especially if you're beginning, and just start with, it's okay if you get just little bits and just share with your little bits. When you are in a reading, what will happen to you, even if you're incredibly experienced, is sometimes you'll go up and you'll still not get much at all, which is why I do like to sometimes use cards as well. Like, you'll be like, you come out of it and maybe you might be a bit tired, or maybe that person's quite blocked in their energy, or maybe their questions are a bit confusing, or they've had a lot going on. And so in those situations, you might not remember a lot, and that's all right. That's okay, because you've still got places to go and places to work with within the session. So that's my first tip is A, ask your guides to help you. B, remember that if you're just beginning, to just take what is there and know and trust the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. And 3, I would keep a notebook. Always, I know that sounds silly, but start keeping a notebook. And I do actually recommend in this course that one of the daily practices that I do to improve my memory is I journal in the morning, first thing, what I dreamed about. It's a really great way to make those links in your brain between that dream state, and which is, can be very similar to the connecting state, and coming out of it back into the real world. So do try to keep a dream diary. It sounds like a lot of work, but just make it very small and very simple. Like, before you go to bed, keep it down there and say, help me to remember whatever comes through, and then wake up and just whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 minute flash, if it's a dog running down the street or whatever, just start getting into that habit, and that can help you remember more too. I do also, if you want to do further study, in my Psychic Readings Intermediate Level course, which is the one that follows this course, I do have lots of strengthening your clairvoyance and your clairaudience activities that you do as part of an assignment, and that can also help you remember more, because they're very targeted and at opening up all your clairs on a much higher level, like beyond your beginner level. Like, so once you kind of feel like you're walking and you're rolling with this course, you might want to do that to expand and open up your third eye more and get more of those strong messages that are really quite vivid. So I hope that's helped anyone who's had that problem with remembering like what's going on and details, to think about maybe a dream journal, to ask your guides, and then maybe if you want to do some further study, just think about that Psychic Readings Intermediate Level with the Strengthen Your Clairvoyance exercises and those kind of things. So what I'd like to talk about now, and one of the most amazing blessings about being able to work online like this, is that thank you, Francine, the advanced class is amazing. One of the most amazing opportunities for me is that being on Udemy means, as most of you know, I'm Australian, and I get to connect with people all over the world. And when Udemy opened up to the Indian market, it was such a brilliant opportunity for me to see how psychic development works in India, because obviously, as many of us know, like, India is the spiritual home of, two of the world's major religions, and anyone who's ever been there knows it just has an incredible presence. And people obviously go to India and find a guru, or they go to retreats, and so looking and hearing the questions I get from my gorgeous Indian students about things that they find confusing. It might sound funny that I get excited about things they find confusing, but because I get to see, like, oh, that's done differently to how we do it in the West, or how I'm trained in the Western tarot, or in the Western version of looking at psychic development. And so some of the questions that come up quite a lot from my Indian students include getting concerned that maybe this isn't the right course for me because you talk about angels, and I have 2,300 gods and goddesses, and I feel like this is a Christian course. And I will just say, like, absolutely not a Christian-based course at all. Angels do exist in other religions as well. But for me, my connection with the angels was always about just, it doesn't have to be a specific thing with angels. It can be spirit, it can be source, it can be the higher gods and goddesses, and it can be ascended masters. It doesn't have to be angels. And if you get stuck on the God word, or you get stuck on the universe word, or stuck on angels or archangels, then just replace it with spirit, or replace it with the gorgeous deities that you love. So whether that be Kali, whether it be Shiva, or whoever it is, Ganesha, like whoever you feel connected to, or who you want to feel connected to, then you can actually say that and use their names as well. And there is a wonderful deck by Kyle Gray called Keepers of the Light. I use that deck in my How to Give career and life purpose readings. I do a couple of sample readings in that using that, which uses the different denominational ascended masters, like from all across the board. So that's fabulous if you're thinking, there's so many angel decks out there, I'm not into angels, they're not my thing, then that's a great deck. There is also this one, I'm just pulling it out here, which I quite like, which is called the I'm having a camera moment there, which is called Energy Oracle Cards by Sandra Ann Taylor, which is also, again, quite non-denominational, like, so beautiful images in it, and it can also be a fabulous deck for using if you don't want to have anything really to do with using angels. It gives a lot of higher self spiritual wisdom. Now, one of the amazing questions I got recently, which really kind of excited me because I hadn't got it before, was someone said to me, well, I'm really feeling confused, and because I don't understand the difference between remedies and oracle cards versus tarot cards. And what I realised, and I feel like I can't continue until I get this cleared up. Now, remedies, it seems, for what I understand, are taught as part of Indian Vedic astrology, but also as part of tarot, as what you go and see a client and you get remedies to go away and do it. So I do that kind of informally as a healer. Like, I kind of, I tell people about crystals, I tell them about maybe some herbs, I tell them about, things I think that could help them, incense oils, working with other guides. Like, that's my version of remedies, but I know it's not the traditional one. For me, no one's doing anything wrong by doing both. Like, you can use oracle cards, which is, yes, speaking to your higher self, or speaking to guides, or speaking to gods and goddesses, and you can add the remedies in too. And in this course, I start to teach you some of those remedies, some of the things that you can do to further heal your life. I also have quite a few remedies in the Master Health Readings and Psychic Wellness course, which talks about psychic wellness, especially if you're burning out a lot from doing a lot of readings. And I talk about different grounding techniques and different things that you can use to protect your vibration and raise your vibration too. So that can also help as well. So I hope that's confused anyone who's like, this course, I thought it was, and can I say the reason why it also has gotten a bit confusing, I love Udemy to bits, but they did something really random a couple of years ago where they put my How to Be Psychic course and they took it out of religion and spirituality and put it in esoteric practices. And this meant that people didn't realise that I would have elements of talking about higher forces from a spiritual perspective, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism or Christianity, and that I'd bring that into my courses. And so people who are not adamantly non-denominational would get quite angry because they thought they'd purchase this course that's more esoteric than spiritual, if that makes sense. So I apologise for anyone who that's happened to. As I said, that was out of my control. I kept emailing them and saying, please take it out, it's not the right category for it. I do teach about gods and goddesses and spirituality and angels, so people might feel a bit misled, but that might explain some of the confusion about the category it got placed in. So I hope that makes sense. A bit of a rant on that one. So again, if you've got any questions, just pop them in here. So now the wonderful one, so yeah, just to recap that, if you are from an Indian background and you get confused, you can use the word spirit whenever I talk about God or angels, or definitely refer to your amazing gods and goddesses. Like, they are amazing and they are incredibly helpful. I call on them a lot, so you call on them too. So don't feel like anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, just don't worry about it. Just ignore it, skip past it. Don't worry, feel like you have to do it. So the next question, which some of you may be asking too, is how much should I charge for readings? Now, I do deal with this in the Build Your Spiritual Business on a Budget course about how to come up with your own unique pricing model. And I also deal with it in the Advanced Tarot and Psychic Business Training course, where I give you a huge amount, 60 hours worth of content on how to succeed online as an online reader. But I'll give you a little brief thing now about charging for readings. So this actually came from also the Tarot Mastery group that's connected with my tarot course, and someone had mentioned in there, like, I want to get started, how much do I charge for readings? Now, the first thing to consider is what kind of, what's your intention of charging for readings? Do you just want to get a bit of extra pocket money, so to speak, a bit of the side reading? You're not turning it into a full-time business or anything. You just want a little bit of extra income, because that's a very different story to if you're going to be setting up your online business or a offline business. So there are three different things that are going on there when it comes to coming up with your pricing. And I'll go into that a bit more. Also consider what country you live in. So if you live in a country where the cost of living is significantly different to other countries, then charge according to your cost of living is my tendency. So for example, if I was living in India, my rent would be a lot cheaper than what it is in Australia or in the Canada or the US. And so my pricing will depend on the bills I have to pay to survive, basically, and which it makes sense. Also, now, however, I will add as that works if you're planning to do it as a side business. So come up with something that suits your culture and your country and what you can do is you look around and you see what others are charging. And if you're just getting started, then just go a fraction below it. Just go a bit below because obviously you're just getting started. And as you grow and build up your experience, then you can start to charge more. And as you study more in your education, now that's, again, if you're just thinking about doing it as a little bit of pocket money, you're not serious about starting a full-time business, or you're just doing it as an offline business, like you might go to a couple of fairs or read out of someone's shop or something like that. So charging local prices is probably the most appropriate. Look around and do some research and see what others charge, and then just charge a bit less, and then you can build it up. Now, it's a very different story if you are intending to run a full-time business because, and I often see this in Facebook groups, people can get very angry about what psychics and healers charge, and they can get, a little bit, take it personally and think that they're being greedy. But it's really important to remember, and this was something that I learnt quite quickly in the beginning, thankfully, about my value and running a business, is that running a business costs money. Like, it's not like when you charge for a reading, especially if you're doing it like online, for example, then through the process and you're running an actual business, there's subscriptions. Like my own business costs me thousands and thousands of dollars a year. Even this Facebook group costs me thousands of dollars a year to run. So you have to price according to what your expenses are and how much you want to earn as profit. I know that sounds like we're starting to get like I'm running a business seminar here, but also, some of you will have to pay tax on that. And some of you will need to get like different versions of insurance. Some of you will need to pay for subscriptions. So, and if you're doing it in different currencies like me, so because I'm Australian, I pay more when I charge in US dollars because of the currency conversion. I lose about 4%. And then PayPal charges me 3%. So you've got to keep in mind, you might think there's one figure and you get to keep all that. That's not the case. So you need to charge according to knowing that you're going to be having overheads. And if you're running a full-time business, then overheads can start to mount up. So that's why sometimes readers are charging a lot of money, because their overheads are quite significant. And also keep in mind, the more you get educated, so the more money you spend, say, on my courses, if you're doing my courses or someone else's courses, then that's investing in yourself and you're becoming more skilled. So of course you're going to start to charge more. And then the more experience you get. And then of course the more authenticity and authority you have. So you start getting more and more and more reviews, and you start to be able to slowly increase your prices. Now again, I'm not saying that you're all in it for the money, and I'm not saying charge as high as possible. I'm saying just keep in mind when you are starting your prices off is that how much of these can I do a week? And some of you may have heard this story of mine before. I apologise if you've heard it before. But my first session, a 90-minute, it was a channeled healing and with reading with oracle card session, ended up going for 2 hours. I charged $85, which in the US is about $60. And the guy paid me $200 because he's like, that was amazing. And it was, it went over time. And I realised, wow, I'm being too cheap. And so straight away I kind of upped it a bit and then went yes. And the reason why I had to is because I realised from the first professional experience I had, I realised that this takes a lot out of me. And so I've got to think, how many of these can I do a day? Like I can't do 10 of these a day. There's not enough hours in the day, but I have to be able to do it so that I can comfortably pay my bills and then pay, my extras and not feel like I'm just wearing myself out because then I'm nobody's friend. So yeah, just think about that in your pricing. There's a lot to consider. What kind of reason are you asking that question in the first place? Like, is it just a little bit of pocket money? If so, you can just charge locally and do it like that. As I said, your overheads won't be as much. Or if you're doing it like in someone's house or in your own house as not an offline thing, it doesn't have to be, look around and see what others are charging and charge a bit less and then build it up. If you're intending to do a full-time online business, then you might need to consider that you're going to start low, yes, and maybe have to charge in US dollars even, because that is the global market that everyone understands and recognises, and then slowly increase it as your overheads become bigger. So yeah, I hope that's helped anyone who wanted to know that question. As I said, I go a lot into this in the my psychic business program, which is on the Psychic Healing Academy. And so if you're interested in that, just reach out to me at team@saljade.com. But yeah, I go into how you can expand your reach and how you can come up with those prices and different things you can do to earn money as a psychic. So I hope that helps. Something else I wanted to add, something you might consider if you're just doing it for a little bit of pocket money, is you might end up deciding to go and work for a psychic and a phone chat line. So obviously they set the prices with that. So that's something that won't be off your head until you go off on your own a bit more. So I hope that has helped with how much to charge. So before I go into our beautiful meditation, I'm going to talk about how to interpret colour. So someone reached out to me recently and said, I did your guided meditation and I saw an orange, like someone was wearing something orange or something was wearing something blue. What does this mean? So the first thing to consider with colour is that colour is, for me, very much uniquely about what it means to you. So as you're going more deeper into your psychic work, symbols that come through will be like what they mean to you, like what a particular symbol means to me might be very different to somebody else. So what an apple means to me, or what a particular crystal means to me, or what a scene from a movie means to me will mean something very different to you, or a song even, especially a song. Like if I start getting a song in my head, that might remind me of a period in my life that maybe something was happening and I could pinpoint a time frame. But for you, it might mean something different because you only heard that song for the first time 2 years ago, kind of thing. So those kind of things, like seeing colour or hearing songs, are very individual. So when someone asks me, what does that mean? First thing I say is, well, what does it mean to you? What does orange as a colour mean to you? What does blue as a colour mean to you? Now, if you've got nothing, nada, then I tend to revert to the chakras. So I go, okay, well, blue is the chakra of the throat, communication, and orange is the chakra for sacral chakra, so sexuality and creativity. So they would be the main messages that I feel like the guides would be sending me at that particular time, is we need to focus on communicating and through our sexuality or through our creativity. So I hope that's helped a bit with colours. So now, have anyone got any questions before I do the meditation? This is probably a very good time to pop them in. If you've got any questions about anything I've spoken about so far, pop them in. Francine, can I just check that I'm still broadcasting? Because sometimes my internet goes out and I just want to check. If you could just pop in, yes, I can still hear you. That would be fabulous. I'll just wait a couple of seconds for that. Thank you for your patience. Give me 2 seconds. Sometimes I have to just go on I didn't bring my phone. So I'm just waiting to see that I haven't. No. Sorry, I'll ask Marcy now. Marcy, can you just pop in and just say, yep, I'm here? Thanks, darling. I'm still broadcasting. Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. Sorry I have to do this. Those who live in Australia know our internet can be a bit iffy. So I'm going to start talking about, and this, like many of you, I was aware of the Lionsgate event recently and chances that we have to transcend some things that are, like maybe not working for us. And to be very honest, I was in the midst of coming back from 2.5 weeks away. I had some serious dental surgery, which was the final of my dental surgery, and I'm moving house. So the first thing I thought was, I don't want to know about this. And if you've ever had that thing, like there's some new amazing astrological thing where you've got to shift a bunch of stuff and you're like, I don't want to know about it. That's very human and normal. Fortunately, I cleared a lot of moving through that and things are a bit easier this week. There's no surgeries. I basically managed to stumble across the wonderful Elizabeth Peru's comment this morning about shadow work and about relationships and about how since 8/8, so since the 8th of August, that our relationships and how we are in relationships have really been bringing up our shadow work. So you may have been finding that there's people in your past, or that you may have been dreaming about them, or there may be just thoughts of guilt and remorse and, oh, maybe I should have done this or said this, or I wasn't good enough, and that stuff coming up. And if you have, just know that that's actually part of this complete cycle at the moment. So I always get excited when I find, oh, it's just astrology. Okay, good. Don't have to panic about that. It's not going to go on forever. And for me, I really found it happening in the last week or so when I sent a birthday message to a really good friend of mine. And I'd been feeling like, oh, I really haven't reached out to him for such a long time. And I'd feeling, because I'd been sick and I'd had a lot going on, and I felt really bad. And he just had this massive crisis because he's quite well known in his field for what he does. He's very, very successful at what he does. And in his field, there was just a massive crisis that I knew he was dealing with. And I felt like this guilt, like I really haven't been good enough as a friend. I haven't rang him. I haven't, you know. And so when he didn't get back to me, I had this moment of like, oh my God, he's not my friend anymore. We've been friends for like 17 years, but I just went, that little girl in me thought, I've ruined it. I've messed up our friendship. I wasn't good enough as a friend. I didn't reach out in time. And I just, you know, it was just me going through my stuff. And then when I saw that shadow stuff this morning, I went, oh, okay, that's what it is. That was just that little girl who, because I went to a lot of primary schools and was often the new kid, felt like I had to be liked constantly. And when I wasn't liked constantly, it felt like that feeling had come back. So and I realised, okay, I've been, you know, even with my husband and with other people in my life, I've been kind of overcompensating a bit lately. And I went, oh, okay, so let's look at healing that. Let's look at that. Like we don't want to throw stones at the shadow, that part of us that does this stuff that makes us go, why are you doing that? You know, like what kind of, you know, you don't need to do that. And, you know, step up a bit. Don't be so weak. And just to really nurture it a little bit and just say to it, okay, I understand that sometimes you feel vulnerable if someone doesn't get back to you straight away and you feel a bit wounded. I understand where this is coming from. This is bringing up insecurities about maybe that you've been so busy and that you're not being a good enough friend. And just to sort of nurture it rather than attacking it, because shadow doesn't survive well when we attack it. It just gets bigger and bigger in the shadow. And I don't probably talk enough about this in this course, and I really wish I could because it is such a passionate subject of mine. And I do tend to talk about it a lot more in the tarot courses because there are particular shadow cards, whereas often in the oracle cards, they're a lot more positive. There's not as many shadow. There's a little bit, but not as much. So I felt like let's today if this has been going on for you in any way, shape or form, we're just going to I don't want to drag you through the traumatic mud or anything, but let's just do a little thing if you find that in friendships and relationships lately with family, loved ones or old friends, new friends, that you're over giving a little bit and and then feeling this niggly feeling like you're not giving enough or that you're making too many mistakes and that you're messing things up. If that's going on for you, then let's just do a little guided meditation together. Now, those of you who go, Sal, that's not going on for me at all, I don't know what you're talking about, then you can sit with us and watch and come and go through it with us, or you can obviously sign off and maybe you might need this one day in the future if you feel like that you find yourself really being a little bit obsessive in your thoughts about not being good enough with people, like you're not being a good enough sister or friend or mother, or not being a good enough wife or husband, and that stuff's coming up, then you can come back and do this meditation. So I'll just get everybody to close their eyes, and if you're in a noisy place, if you could shut doors or, you know, turn off distractions, that would help. If you're listening to me while you're scrolling on Instagram, you might want to just stop scrolling on Instagram for a second. And I'm just going to get everyone to close their eyes. And just take a really deep breath in through your nose. And breathe out through your mouth. And just take another really deep breath in through your nose. And breathe out through your mouth. And another really deep breath in through your nose. And breathe out through your mouth. And I'd like you just to bring your attention into your body, into the center of the room. And just feel how you're sitting, or if you're lying down, or however you're viewing this. Take a moment just to acknowledge how your body's feeling, without judgment. And then just take another deep breath in and breathe out. I'd like you just to say, everything that comes through for me right now is for my best and highest good. Thank you. It is done, it is done, it is done. And I'd like you now to imagine a huge waterfall of white light coming down from above. And if you're someone who doesn't visualize, then you can just feel it. And just feel it or see it just coming around, all around you. And just protecting you throughout this meditation. Coming down over your head, your face, your shoulders, right down your back, down your front of your torso, right down your legs and into the ground. And I want you to take a moment to think about who you'd like to work with. It might be a god or a goddess. It could be an angel, an ascended master, or it could just be spirit. You can just ask spirit to work with you today. So I'm going to use the word spirit, and you can fill in whoever you would like as I go through this meditation with you. So I want you to take a moment to just think about a time in your life, and it can be from when you were a small child, an adult, a teenager. It doesn't have to be any particular time frame. A time in your life where you felt like someone had rejected you for not being good enough, or that you felt that you were vulnerable and had to prove yourself. So it could be a friend stopped talking to you and you didn't know why. It could be someone breaking up with you. It could be that you started a new job and you really wanted to be liked and you felt like you just weren't good enough at that job and you felt judged. It could be any new situation where you felt vulnerable and felt that you had to try extra hard to be liked. It could even be a time where maybe you felt a bit bullied or a little bit like people were ganging up on you and that there was something wrong with you and you wanted to prove to them that you were a good person. So just take a minute to think about choosing one scenario. The first one that comes to mind is usually the best. And just think about that now. And I'd like you now to just picture or feel or even set the intention that you are back in that moment now. Feeling that vulnerability, feeling that shame, feeling that urge to prove yourself. Feeling that urge to get people to like you. And just take a moment to notice what's around you. Maybe if you remember how old you were, what you were wearing maybe, what the environment looked like, who was there. And take a moment to think about the fear that you experienced if these people didn't like you, or didn't accept you, or didn't find that you were good enough, and what the consequences of this would be. So maybe if you were getting broken up with, it might be that you'd never meet someone else. If it's a work environment, maybe that's you'd never fit in and you'd lose your job. So you had that survival feeling. If it's at school, it might be that you would never be able to feel safe at school, or to feel loved or accepted. So just take a moment to think about what the worst consequence could have been for you not feeling good enough or being liked enough. And now what I want you to do is to imagine your higher self. So you as now, as you stand today, with spirit at your side, or any guides or angels or ascended masters you want to work with. And start by giving yourself some kindness and compassion. For feeling like this. Really send rays of love and compassion and kindness to yourself, as you would a dear friend, for having these fears and for maybe behaving and acting in this way and setting up these patterns. Just bear witness to yourself accepting that kindness and compassion at that age you were. And then ask the guide or spirit who's with you to send love and compassion and unconditional love and light all through you at that age, cleansing and purifying the trauma of that time. And as you start to feel stronger in that moment, absorbing all that love and kindness and compassion, take a moment to tell that younger self, you are amazing. You are going to be fine. You are incredible, whole and complete, just as you are. And then thank the guide who is with you, or spirit if you're working with spirit. And then see yourself as that younger self, walking away stronger, happier, more fulfilled and confident. And if you don't see, just feel that energy of them walking away, more confident and happy and fulfilled. And in your own time, you may open your eyes. And I hope that brought something up. Again, if you didn't see or feel anything, that's okay. You can come back and try at a later date. But I hope something in your energetic or etheric form felt shifted by that, and you were able to look at that younger self with kindness and compassion and face that shadow work instead of judging or feeling guilty or ashamed of any way that you behaved and how that may have set up some patterns in this particular time. So I hope that's helped everyone, and thank you again so much for joining me. And if you've got any comments about this meditation or any of the comments about questions today, please pop them in. If you want to know more about anything I've talked about, just reach out to team@saljade.com. And thank you again, everyone, for being with me. Thank you, Andrew and Francine and Marcy and Deanne and everyone else who showed up today, and I really appreciate it.